So then, we are back with more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end. As per then Yeshayahu, the 61st chapter, we understand then the time of the end, time of restoration of the holy cities laid waste for many centuries. And also from the first son of Ibrahim, Ishmael, we understand then how nations are going to be relating with each other as per then the understandings of Yeshayahu the prophet. So then, as far as the system is concerned, we understand absolutely sure, without a doubt, that there is a Chinese system coming in the next 36 months. We are going to observe in very front of our eyes this system downloading in our own computers. We must be prepared for it. So then, where do we find then the leadership of the time of the end as per each individual nations? So then, reading from Galah, or Revelation, we are reading then the autumn feast. And based upon what we can gather from this information, when you read then chapter 1:8, and then the merchants of the earth would be doing trade with China. What do we understand of this section of it? Well, first let's then analyze what the Creator has spoken. We are not reading from the Greco-Roman translation. There is a time of being religious, and there is a time of being real. Many people, they think Holy Scripture is then kids reading. Oh, bad news. It's not. So let's then verify how this system is going to be, and then understand the leadership of our country. So then, Galah, Autumn Feast, Revelation, chapter 1:8. What does it state? Chapter 1:8 is then not a chapter. Isn't it profound? It's not a chapter. It's a layer of understanding of the Messiah, explaining to the set apart, or then the Hebraic people, or then the Israelic lineage people, to come out of this system and then return and then do what the Messiah told them to do. It's not complicated. The city is laid waste for many centuries. The Messiah went up. Prior of, he said, go therefore around the world and do tabernacling. From 1009 to 2009, there was no tabernacling in the earth. Thus, the term New World Order. You have to have order in the world to have a functional world. But those were concocted during the 1,000 years of Nahashatan. If you read it in the 20th chapter of Revelation, you read then a layer of understanding related with 1,000 years given to the Messiah, and then 1,000 years given to Nahashatan. It couldn't be any simpler. The Messiah came, he completed the spring feast, then 1,000 years of the Messiah, then the other 1,000 of Nahashatan. Obviously, Nahashatan's system did not work. So then tabernacling is returning. But then let's verify chapter 1:8. You find then, very interestingly, then a very important section. Chapter 1:8, verse 11. And the merchants of the earth will then mourn over the system, and so on and so forth. But that's later. The point we must understand is this: the merchants of the earth. What do we understand of the merchants? Because what goes on in Revelation 1:8 or Galah 1:8, or then a section of it, is related with a time where then there is after. The system of the entire world then is inactive. But we are speaking of prior of starting. But then we have the answer when the system is then rendered at no use. What do we read the most important? Merchants. So then, we understand the Chinese system is coming. We understand we must have our taxation system working exact standards in the next 36 months. We have to get this system set exactly. We've got 36 months to get the job done. If we don't do this, our own system then is going to jam. So then, there is a time of being religious and a time then of being sound-minded. Time of being religious, wasting time, going to and fro, confusion was a time of deceit. We are no longer during the time of deceit. So then, responsible companies, they watch developments, and these is the most important. They understand if the system is not updated, if taxation does not take place instantly, when the Chinese system comes, it's going to be absolute chaos. But then who's going to be in charge of the nation? So then, let's evaluate what the government has done thus far. Time of deceit, from 1009 to 2009, you find in our own government building up this Ozarks place over there in the midst of the United States. Huge place, huge building. The person over there in charge used to work for the CIA, was from the Army Secret Services, and so on and so forth. If we do an investigation over there, we find his own personal trade involved with the government. You are going to find it. If you investigate his banking, you're going to find government's money involved. That's 100% sure. Take to the bank. So then, what are they going to govern from underground? Their understandings prior of the realization of the Ozarks was they were counting in a system that was active. Is it true? The normal factor would be then New World Order, time of deceit, going to and fro, confusion, and so on and so forth. Then the leaders would go underground and give orders from underground. Very interesting. The problem is, what kind of a system are they going to use on the surface? Do you truly want to know who's going to be in charge of our country if the government does not get the job done? Very simple. U.P.S. Do you know why? Because they are serious. If you don't think the military should be in charge, at least semi-military government, so they can get the job done properly. You never worked for U.P.S. yet. I did. It's very serious. So then, what do we read in Galah, Revelation 1:8? The merchants of the earth. If you are smart, you can understand the system, computerized system, and you understand merchant. What can you link? Our government, if they don't get taxation done, and then exactly the next 36 months, they won't be able to function. But let me ask you this. There are going to be people downloading systems in their computer and doing trade with China. And then they order products and then the products are not delivered. Because the government is incompetent? How are they going to explain as merchants to the Chinese government, we can't deliver your packages? When nearly the entire nation is going to be linked up with their system, how can they not deliver the packages? I really don't care what the government is going to do or not. If the police stays on the road, the UPS trucks, they're going to drive over them. They can open fire if they want, put spikes on the road. When the system comes, there is no excuse. The police has to get out of the roads and let the trucks go through because they have deliveries to be made. That's the merchants of the earth. But then great news. Since we understand merchants of the earth, we understand the merchants are going to be in charge. Then the government has to be smarter than the freight companies. At least this is what would make them distinct. If they are not smarter than the freight companies, they shouldn't be governing. True? Now let me ask you this. Taxation doesn't get done? What do you think the freighter companies are going to be thinking of? The government's going underground. If the military goes on a road, who's going to deliver the packages? You know what Chinese are going to do? Don't let the U.P.S. airplanes land on the land anymore. That's it. And they know they have the power to do so. They find another company. Thus then, when we read the merchants of the earth, then you understand what it means. Our government is wallowing around. They think they have the military and so on and so forth. They're going to stand on the road. No. The trucks are going to go over them. So let's then, speaking of a positive understanding of it, let's say our government is smart. They are not going underground. They are not going to be wasteful anymore. And they are going to be smarter than the freight companies. You know what this means? More roads. Not so much road taxes. Facilitating more jobs. Kind of what they should be doing in the first place, isn't it? Because if you don't think the military then would be proper for the leadership of our country, if this taxation system does not get done, and when the U.P.S. and the freighter companies, they are in charge, it's not going to be very nice. Not because they are violent or then otherwise. Because you have a route, you have then a schedule. You have to do your work. Myself as UPS worker, used to be UPS worker, my job was to get the packages from the driver, go around and deliver the packages. This was my function. Driver always busy. Computer pad always, click and and so on and so forth, computing the packages, placed it on a side, deliver this, the number is there. Run. After 10 hours doing this, boy, at the end of the day, you're very tired. It's the nature of the job. So then we understand when we read the scripture, the merchants of the earth, oh boy, think. Simply think. The situation is not giving you an option for you to think of merchants or not. The government is not doing what they want anymore. Try to understand the gravity of the problem in terms of then freighters being in charge. This means when the government is not performing properly, they're going to be out of there. And they are not going underground. Try to understand the system won't let them. And the only way the government can be above the freighters is by taxation. They have to be exact, precise. Did you know the U.P.S. company, they have every aircraft paid for? Every truck paid for? And is the government thinking then people are going to order packages from China and not going to be delivered because the police is on the road? Get out of the way! And they will get out of the way. Can't be sure of it. Our own government is going to be linked up with the Chinese system. They must, because they have to monitor their taxes. Did not say nosing around people's income. And working for U.P.S, you have to have a brain, you have to think fast, you have to do your job. Otherwise, you don't belong there. And then going a step higher and speaking of the government, the government is a joke. Not saying the government is unkind. That's not the point. But if the government is pondering using military force, police force, they can forget it. They won't be able to use them because of the system. The system won't let them. In fact, if the government is not cautious, the police is going to turn against them. The military is going to turn against them. So what they were so surely thinking their action is going to be covered by the military, if they truly think twice, it is the contrary. The government might end up seized over there in the corner. And then comes the freighters. Let's verify then. The merchants of the earth then, speaking of purchases of their cargo of gold, silver, precious stones, pearls, fine linen, purple, silk, scarlet, aromatics, you name it. These are some of the examples very popular of the time. They truly are going to be in charge. You know why? Because they know how to track. Every time you receive a package from a decent company, in terms of computerization, you have a barcode on the front of the label. You have an ID of the box, or the package, or the sack. And information is computed. Can you understand how many packages UPS deals on a daily basis worldwide? The number is so big it would not fit in your head. And they get the job done. Not only computerizing, but then people working, trucks, wear and tear. And the government turns around and they say they can't track taxes. Only dealing with the computing part of it. They don't have to deal with insurance. They don't have to deal with people. They don't have to deal with the people being paid on the road. They don't have to pay for buses. They don't have to pay for trucks. They don't have to pay for airplanes. And they can't track taxes. A simple task of having a depot, military computer experts, and working with computation. Analyzing data, get on the telephone, come up with a protocol, and the government does not know how to do this much. The freighters, they do twice as much of work and they get the job done. How come is this politician on the television? Can you imagine you work for a reputable company, then you come home watching these politicians talking bad of each other and enjoying each other's incompetence? And then do they think they're going to be placing police on the road, won't let the trucks go through? They are out of their minds. So then we understand what we should expect from our government. And we have already a backup.